Welcome to the Awaken Ireland show on TNS Radio.
Good morning and welcome to Awaken Ireland Radio Show 6. I'm your host, James O'Sullivan. This is a pre-recorded show as I am not in Tramore today. I'm actually up at the Slorgan Park Hotel at the Financial Terrorism Exposed event with Max Kaiser, Stacey Herbert, John Perkins, Ian Crane and many more. We have a pre-recorded show with Stefan Kramer, who is a financial expert, Celtic Gold. Also we have Aidan Killian, a funny man, talking about everything and anything from sovereignty to comedy. We have Paul Byrne then giving an update about what's happening up in his part of the world, up in Ogram in County Wicklow, within Awaken Wicklow, and some of the initiatives that he's involved with up there. And also an update of a recent event that he had there with Ben Gilroy up in that part of the world. So there's plenty happening in the show, and a bit of music in between, and we'll be back live on air next week. So enjoy the show. And on Skype we have funny man Aidan Killian. You're very welcome to the show for the very first time. Aidan, how are you?
I'm great, happy to be here listening to your lovely voice. How's it going?
Hi Aidan, how you doing?
Oh no, now I have to listen to that voice too. I'm not happy with that.
Paul Sovereign O'Shea across the table from me.
Terrible, isn't it?
Aidan, you've been away, you've been travelling again, man. What have you been up to? Who have you been scaring?
That's right, I was away in Thailand. My uncle lives out there, and he was sick. You know, he had a heart attack, and we thought he was gonna die. And I flew out the next day because I was the only family member without a real job. Which isn't true, actually. A lot of them don't have jobs. But anyway, they sent me out, and I was there for about a week, and I was. Do you know, this is really interesting. You'll like this, guys. You know, with your sovereignty, and I learned a lot when I was there. You know, for the first week he was in bits and he's tubes and he's very helpless, and he's a big, powerful, charismatic man who's ran his own business and been very capable. But when you're sick, you're helpless. You can't do anything, and you become completely reliant on those around you. You know, the doctors and the hospital and the insurance company and so on. Mm-hmm. But because he was away, his insurance policy, they were claiming that they weren't going to cover. There was complications, and they said they wouldn't cover some of it. But there's a strong case that they should have. And when I was dealing with this, and I was dealing with it through the internet, with the emails, and just by simply standing up for your rights, for the truth and the facts, you can achieve so much. Okay. Like if you went through the history of the emails that I had with the insurance company, the VHI, they weren't going to pay. That was it. They were adamant, and they said no, go to the complaints department and blah blah blah. Now, what happened, guys? He just so you know, in case there's anyone listening and wants to know what happened. My uncle lived, and he's great, and he's happy and healthy. Right, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how he dealt with the insurance company.
Yeah, snakes.
They wouldn't pay, and they said, for example, that I'd write an email saying you still owe this money. I documented it. I got stuff from the hospital. I told the doctor what I wanted. Told him to put it in writing. Got it in writing. Scanned it. Sent it, and said, look, you owe this amount of money. Okay, and they write back saying blah blah blah. We sent it here. We're not paying. Sent me to the complaints department. All right. Now, if you look at the complaints department, there's a little contract in that, and it says, if you complain here, we have final say, or final judgment on the complaint. So, in other words, once you go through a complaints department, you're screwed. Mm-hmm. Did you know that?
No, didn't know that.
No,
it's probably different for different ones because I saw it on it. So I wrote back. Dear whatever her name is, we'll call her Mary, even though that's not her name. Dear Mary, but sure, her name's just a name. Dear Mary, this is the second time you've hidden behind the group email medical ops because they don't sign their name off. I can only presume that you and your company have something to hide. I'll stand under penalty of perjury at all times, will you? I stand under full commercial and equitable liability under international law, will you? Thank you for your invitation to correspond through the complaints department. However, I repeat, I've no interest in going through this process. I'm waiting for you to provide me with the full name of the CEO. Please also provide me with an address where he or she can be served. Now, this went on, and I gave my demands. And she responds, right, thanks for your comments. We'll forward this to the business management. So I jump in again, because you got to rebut everything, as you guys well know. Just nail them. I said I didn't make comments. I made very serious statements of fact which can Yeah, I'll read this email to you, lads, because I think this will be good for anybody listening, because this can be used for any company or anybody who's trying to use, their big, powerful corporation hiding behind it to not give you what you're entitled to.
Yeah.
So I said, dear whoever, I did not make comments. Rather, I made very serious statements of facts, which can now be accepted as full truth and full fact in any international court of law. I also gave you time to answer my questions on why you've refused to document your incorrect figures and why you've refused to pay your outstanding debts. Because of this delay in your required answers, you'll also provide, under added penalties of breach of trust and gross negligence, the name and contact details of the head of your legal department. You refuse to comply with my... This is where it gets good, because you're not actually... I'm not requesting anything. I'm not asking here.
You're standing in your sovereignty, man.
Yeah, I made a... Yeah, that's it. I'm very simple. I'm saying, look, you owe this. Yeah. And that's the fact,
Yeah.
So
you're not pleading. There's no pleading going on here.
What's that?
There's no pleadings.
Yeah, well, that's... I mean, it was very nice at the start, but when they said no, then they made what they would call a final decision. I just informed them that it's not final, and they will, in fact, pay what they're or else they can stand in dishonour. They can choose to not pay and be in dishonour if they want.
Yeah.
But, unless they're willing to document it, because that's all it is. I just asked for the documentation. Here, I'll finish the email, and then we can chat properly. You refused to comply with my demands. As you know, silence is acquiescence, and you've now accepted that the VHI have an outstanding debt to Sean. You've also accepted that you're in breach of duty and have a disregard for human life. May I remind you that there are maybe criminal penalties for breach of trust, breach of contract, breach of fiduciary duties. Because of this delay in your required answers, I've postponed my first radio interview. I was on RT the other day, by the way, about your current dishonour until Monday the 28th, which is last Monday. Anyway, I will give you until 11 a.m. to ensure me that you will pay all monies owed as I've previously documented. Regards, Aidan. Now, they have agreed to pay and everything's fine. They're going to pay. Today, so it's a happy story. But I think that everybody can learn from this, because if you just hold your own ground and just stick to your guns, don't argue with them. Just point out the truth, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got that off my chest. How are you?
Fantastic.
Fine. And they'll try every trick in the book, won't they, to not pay?
Well, I think that's it. Companies, it's in their financial interest, and they're trading for profit, and that's their aim. So it's not that they want to kill you; they just want to make as much money as possible. So if you don't, I don't take anything personally. I just see it the way it is, and I don't really care. I just don't see them as real. It's kind of, we were talking earlier about the prisoner. I am not a name. I am not a number. I'm not a legal entity. But that's it. This is a company. These banks or these, Vodafone or whichever company is annoying you, they're just a dead entity. They're just like, okay, I know there's a human being working there sending you an email, but you don't need to attack the human. But you can just don't deal with them as a human. You don't need to hug them. Just demand what you want. And if they don't do it, tell them to go away.
Well, Aidan, you have a little routine that you do there with, when you get annoying phone calls. Would you like to give people a taste of that?
Well, I do a lot with the phone calls, because I can do a bit maybe, but let me give you the background. I used to get phone calls about an alleged debt from a bank, and not just a bank, all sorts of people who I'd never contracted with or I'd never met. Somebody from Northern Ireland was ringing me, an investigator. I looked up his phone number. He was like a private investigator.
IPI.
It was after me, and I'm a comedian. If you stick my name or the name that I use into the internet, there's like 3 or 4 pages on me. It shows you where I am, pictures of me, videos of me. I'm very easy to find. Right? This guy was chasing me for months.
Is comedy a crime?
He was no, not the comedy, but there was a mortgage, and I asked the bank could they prove that it was in fact their debt, and amazingly enough, James, they weren't able to do that.
Yeah, wow.
You don't believe that, Paul? Imagine they weren't able to prove that. I asked them, and then when they couldn't give me that, I asked them for a signed invoice.
We've been hearing that more and more, actually.
Have you heard that? I think that's I know people have heard that by now, but it's kind of phenomenal. It's so simple just to ring them up and say, can you give me a signed invoice? And they won't. They can't. So these guys came after me and they'd rang me, and I used to be really scared, and that's the truth of it. I didn't know how to deal with it, and every time my phone rang, I'd be looking at it going, phew, if it's a friend or if it's an unknown number, I wouldn't answer it. and it's a terrible thing to live in fear, you know.
Yeah.
So I just started slowly empowering myself, and I started doing fun stuff. I used to ask, I deny being Aidan Killian, right? I'd say that's just a name. Who are you? But then I'd start having fun with them. I'd say stuff like, what's your favorite color? Right? And they go, what? And I go, just what's your favorite color? And they go, look, I need you to know if you're. And I go, no, hang on, this is important. You're ringing my phone here and you're asking me questions. And before we can continue, I need you to answer me this simple question. Which do you prefer, red or blue? and they'd often just go, red. And then I hang up on them. You know, but it's just really empowering to just anything. Just ask them anything, you know, like what do you think of the weather today? And then whatever they say, you know. Here's the way I see it. If you're my friend and you ring me up, I have nothing to hide, right? But if you're not my friend and you're ringing because you want to use information against me, right, which isn't in my best interest, well, it would be crazy for me to give you information such as where I sleep at night, or any information about me. So
exactly, yeah.
You know, so you guys know the story, but I got a call from a private number. James, will I do a bit of this? Will I?
Yeah, go for it, Jim.
Yeah. So on the radio, I get this call from a private number, and you know, at this stage I started thinking, well, the universe loves me, so I know a lot of people in debt don't answer private numbers, but I answer and I say, hello, who's speaking, please? Oh, hi, this is Veronica here from the Bank of Ireland. Can I speak to Aidan Killian, please? Why would someone ring me if they don't know who I am? So I say, just, you know, it's funny, I can't actually do this piece on the radio. It's too hard to do when I'm looking at my computer. Let me stand up. I'm going to stand up and hold a fake microphone in my hand and do it and do it again. Alright, so ring, right, it's ringing. Hello, hello, this is Veronica here from the Bank of Ireland. Can I speak to Aidan Killian, please? Why would someone ring me if they don't know who I am? I can't fucking do it. Sorry, I used the F word there. I can't do it.
We can edit it out, so it's no problem, you know.
I'll give you the summary of it. For some reason, I'm unable to do it.
No problem.
I can't pay
the long story short is that I didn't give them any information about me, you know. I didn't tell them anything because why should I? So I started asking her questions. You know, what's your name? What's your address? What's your PPS number? What are you wearing? And she didn't answer those questions. And I said, well, Veronica, I'm very busy, but tell you what, why don't you please hold?
Very good.
I make her hold. I always make corporations hold now because it's just very funny for the start. It's if somebody rings,
role reversal.
If I get any call from a company that I didn't want, I just go, hang on a second, please hold, and I put the phone down for a few seconds and I think about what I want to say next, and I let them wait because, you know, maybe I'll just say, hi, you have my number, delete it from your records, please. You know, but, you know, they shouldn't be ringing you if you don't want them ringing you. So I'd make her hold and then then I'd sing into the phone, you know. I'd sing, you know the song I sing, I like that nice positive song. Yeah, I mean, you can sing whatever song you like to them, but they always have these tunes on their
jingles,
so I'd sing, I like the flowers, I like the daffodils, I like the mountains, I like the rolling hills. Hey Veronica, how's it going? Here comes my favourite bit. Bum-de-addy. Well, obviously they think I'm mad, right?
Yeah. But I'm sure Veronica, she must have found it entertaining. I mean, somewhere she must have had a smirk on her face, you know, and like, you know, this guy's great. I mean, who would have the balls to do that, you know?
You know, you're right. These guys are working there, and they're just part of a system, and they're human beings, and they probably have, you know, they've family and friends, and they're good people, and they're just a little cog. I mean, I used to be a banker. They're just a cog in a great wheel of...
Sorry, you were a wanker? Is that what you said?
Well, I still am that, but I... oh, damn, this is on the radio. I just admitted that.
Hey, this is an afternoon children's show, folks. Come on, keep it together.
Show.
We're trying to educate the young people here.
Children. You know, children are sovereign. You ever watch children? They don't give a damn.
They
say exactly what they want and cry when they want and tell people to go, I hate you.
Did you not know it? This is an educational, this is a children's show.
Is it?
Yeah,
it should be.
I mean, the kids understand this stuff better than most adults anyway.
Absolutely, they do, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, why? See, why? What happened to us? Where did we lose?
It's called military programming through modern educational systems. That makes any sense to you? Schooling.
Is it done on purpose? Like,
yeah,
do you think teachers have the intention to make us,
robots,
subservient, or are they also the same? I mean,
no, they're just part of the process. It's the legislators of the problem. The legislators and the companies that control legislation through lobbying are the problem. That's where it all stems from. The teachers are just part of the cogs in the wheel. You know, they're given a syllabus just to teach.
Mm-hmm. And if they step outside of it, they won't have a job.
Exactly.
Simply.
If you're too creative as a teacher, that you actually get reined in. Hold on, you're not following the syllabus here. You have to get you such a certain amount of material. You know, and that's it actually comes from Prussia, Paul.
This is Prussian system.
Yeah, it's after the war with Napoleon. They realised that too many of the population were being too individualistic on the battlefield, and they decided to set up a three-tier educational system where the elites were at the very top, and then you had the middle class, and then mostly the lower class then, which were the soldiers to fight in the coming wars, and that debating was only taught at the very elite school, and leadership skills and creativity and outside of the box critical thinking, and then the middle class got small bit of debating skills and mainly to follow leadership, and then the bottom then, which is the majority of the population, but 90% then, is purely to be subservient to authority and to follow orders. And that has grown from Prussia since the time of Napoleon all across the Western world.
And that's brilliant. It's such a great system. And why do we choose to do this? Because we don't have to, James. We can pull out any time we like, you know.
Herd mentality.
Social pressure.
Yeah.
And what's wrong with us? Why didn't it work with us? Like, what's wrong with us? Why can't we fit in? Why can't we do what we're told? Like, why are you two on this radio anyway, causing trouble? Why can't you just go and get a job planting people or something?
We've mutated from the standard sheeple, you know. I don't know what we are, but we're not.
I think travelling has a lot to do with it, Aidan. If you've travelled around the world a bit, you know, you get to see different cultures and society and stuff, and also self-education. Myself and Paul and Murphy OC here, we've read an awful lot outside of the system about how everything falls into place, you know. Ask questions. Asking questions is the key.
Do you know, I did something, you know, I'm in the same boat as you, or a similar boat anyway, but I did something and it was really disturbing recently. Do you remember when there was that couple, and I think they slept in a tent outside their house?
Yeah.
They were an elderly couple and they were actually physically removed from their house.
Yeah.
On the threat of force, and it was on a YouTube video, and it was on. It even made the front page of the newspapers. They were talking about it. But when the next day I took the newspaper and I went into a comedy room, and there's about 100 people there now. About 100 people in this room, or close to 100. Mm-hmm. I held up the newspaper and I said, "Listen, before we start this gig, I was headlining the gig, so I was going to do about half an hour of material, and I held up the bit of paper and I said, just have a quick vote here before I continue. Who thinks that this is a good thing? They're greedy, they've lots of houses, to hell with them, and they deserve it. And who thinks that no man or woman in this country, you know, should be kicked out of their home because they have constitutional rights?" Now, and I did this. Okay, so who thinks, you know, to hell with them? Yeah, and then who thinks, you know, no man should be kicked out? Guess how many people were on each side?
It was probably around 60-40, was it? 60% said, "Oh, it serves them right."
My guess is about 80-20.
One person in the audience went for that no man or woman should be kicked out.
Wow.
Everybody else believed all the hype and the lies actually from the media and the distortion of truth about you know, being okay, you know, and it was really sad, you know.
Yeah,
it was really sad. And now by the end of the gig, I did a lot of material on that, and it just happened to be the same week that I actually lost my house. Well, didn't lose it. I mean, it's still there, but I mean, I got a letter from a court saying that they took it, but I just sent it back to them and informed them that, you know, I have never been served, and this is an unlawful sale, and you'll be responsible for your part in it. I should have said in this life or the next, like a man from Gladiator. But, I did that on the phone as well. I once got threatening on the phone. Some guy was he was harassing me on the phone on a Sunday morning. I had a bit of a hangover, and I got a bit angry with him. I said, listen, you're going to pay for what you do in this life or the next. So if you ring this phone again, you want to think about that. You think about it, right? I was a little bit angry than that. But anyway, nobody rings me anymore. So, but okay, where we go? Let's focus here. How can we get more people to wake up faster, guys? Or do we even need that? Do we want that? Does it matter?
Well, I think the networking is the best way to go about it. You need to keep having events like the Perkins event that's on this weekend. That's coming on. The Project Awaken in Waterford. Project Awaken 16th, 17th of June is the next big one. We have people coming down from the northwest, from Donegal are coming down for that. Yeah. They're booked into hotels and everything, so it's great. It's all about networking, Aidan, if you ask me. You're networking with people that already have woken up or have partially woken up, and to continue to do that, and everything else will follow.
Partially waking up, and do we need everybody to wake up? Does it matter? I mean, can we just allow them to sleep? I mean, maybe they're happy. Ignorance is bliss.
A very good question.
It's all about the public consciousness. I mean, you'll never see. There's different types of people in society anyway. You have the people that are naturally intuitive and investigative, and then you have the 90% that are not. Right? So they will just follow pretty much what the consensus is. Yeah. So when the 10%. When they realise a new paradigm, the other 90% will intuitively follow soon after. That's just the way it is. That's what you experienced there, Aidan, in that experiment that you had in your comedy gig. That was a very sad moment for me, and I was really genuinely surprised. I thought it'd be 50-50 or something like that. Yeah, but if the general consensus in society was that it was an unlawful act, if people understood what sovereignty is and what the difference between lawful and legal is, then your reaction would have been the reverse. It would have been one out of the group that responded, they would have had a positive reaction and supportive reaction. It all depends on where they're coming from, their source, their centre point of consciousness, I suppose.
And I think that's it as well. A lot of people just simply don't know. And it's very hard. I mean, if you don't know, if you've never, because I mean, think about it. What's the America's Independence Day? What's the date? Americans' Independence Day.
4th of July.
July 4th, right? Yeah. And what's Ireland's Independence Day?
21st of January.
Okay, but most people in Ireland don't know that.
They haven't a clue of it.
They haven't a clue. And we don't know. I mean, I never remember reading a constitution in school. I never remember seeing the proclamation, or I never heard the word sovereign explained, and this is a huge part. Not even republic. They didn't even explain republic to us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very important that people realise that just there's some basic truths about this country, the people in this country, who we are, and what our rights are, and that's really the basic, very basic stuff. It's just that's it.
Yeah.
If you're an alien on a different planet and you're looking down at planet Earth, and you're going, okay, what are these people doing?
And as somebody famous once said,
what are they? That's one of the first questions. Yeah. What are they? Like, what are they? What are their rights? What can they do? I don't know. It's all mental. It's too funny. That's why I do comedy on it, because sometimes it's so horrific and sad that the only way out of it for me is to make it funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because otherwise I go crazy. And that's it. When I get any letter or something that I don't want to deal with, I just say to myself, well, how can I make this funny? Because then I can not get stressed about it. So at the moment I'm writing a letter to AIB informing them that they're fired, and I don't want to do business with them, but I'm going to give them a condition on it. Well, it's a 3-page letter so far. It's a shame I haven't got it finished. I could have read it for you. Basically, I'm going to fire them, but I'm going to inform them, right, that nothing in this world is final, including death itself. And I'm going to give them a chance. I'm going to say I'll reopen these accounts with you on condition that you pay back all of the money that you've been bailed out. You apologise to the people of Ireland. You commit to dealing with integrity in the future, and you don't lend out money that you don't have. I have a big list of this isn't a demand; it's a request.
You're relieving them of their duty of service to you.
Yeah, if they want to do business with me in the future, they're going to have to change. They're going to have to clean up their act, because I don't want to be associated with people like that anymore, or businesses. I'm not interested. So, and the way I see it, people say, Aidan, if you don't pay off your debt, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, first of all, it's not my debt. But what happens, so what if I don't? I'm going to outlive this present system. The way I said, oh, but you'll never get a loan again. I don't want a loan again. I don't want to borrow from these companies, these usurers. You know, I'm not interested in that. But even if I did, they're going to be gone. This system can't last. Look at it. It's going to collapse in probably the next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
So I'd say everybody, quick, get your Visa cards and go down and buy a year's supply.
What people need to understand there, Aidan, as well, is that, you know, what information that has come to light to me recently is that if your mortgage is in arrears over a year and a day, then their insurance policy kicks in and they actually clear the debt and they get paid for it, and they still want you to pay the money even though it's already been cleared. Now, what you can do is you can get through the bureau.
It's the Irish Credit Bureau.
Irish Credit Bureau. Irish Credit Bureau.
I don't have the exact address of it there.
The Irish Credit Bureau. If you can go online, you can pay €6. And Paul, you can get all of the information that's in relation to any debt that you have, and the interactions between any of the banking institutions, and you can find out whether your debt has been cleared or not.
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. So if you're taken to court for
the insurance company pay off the debt, then who owns the insurance company? That's good. Fair play to them. That's nice that they pay off the debts.
They've already cleared the debt, and it'll show up on their.
It's written off.
Yeah. WO. Is it W?
Just
W written off. Written off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see. I'd like to see that. I don't have any debts.
We're going to get a copy of some of that documentation. We're going to read it out over the air. We're going to get hold of it's been done in Wexford recently.
Wexford and Waterford.
And Waterford. Right.
And this credit institute is trying to take the person to court for the outstanding sum of €15,000, which has already been written off. And it's documented.
It just says it just.
Yeah.
It says that clear on the paper.
Yeah.
That's and the world continues to get crazier and crazier.
So let's go back to the start of what happens here with a debt, right? First of all, your signature creates the credit, right? And on the other side of the balance sheet, that they lump the same amount of money on the other side, and then they start charging you interest on money that you never even borrowed in the first place. Okay, then you start paying off, monthly installments back. Mainly the interest first, which is usurious, and every single holy book known to man, has condemnation for usury, right? So you're banging off, paying away mostly interest for 10, 15, 20 bloody years or whatever before you start paying the principal. You end up paying back 5 times the amount you actually borrowed. And then you find out that they've securitized the mortgage in the first place. They sold it off, packaged it up with derivatives and financial instruments and sold it on, and made more profit out your consent to breach of contract law. Then if you're in arrears from a year and a day, they get a payment, another payment.
Sometimes up to 60 days.
Up to 60 days?
60 days in arrears, and they cash in on the insurance.
So there's all these things going on that we have absolutely no
60 days?
Some contracts, 60 days in default. And these were high risk mortgages that were pooled and then sold off further to investors, Crazy.
So they're getting paid out in numerous ways, and sometimes they get double or triple payments under insurance. They have it insured in loads of different areas, loads of different insurance companies, Aidan, as well. You see,
I have a joke. It's not a joke, but I have a piece that I do in my comedy set that I had. It was aired on RTE on Friday, which I was very happy to sneak it in because I was surprised it wasn't edited. But it goes like this because it's kind of a summary of what you said. So when I was looking for the contract for my for a debt, they didn't provide me with the contract, and I didn't know why. And they sent me an email that said, without prejudice. I looked that up because I didn't know what it meant. It means it can't be used in a court of law. Then I realised they're trying to hide something, the sneaky so-and-so. So I wrote back, listen, if you don't produce the documents, I'm not paying you anything because the account's in suspense. Love and respect to all human beings. Aidan, right? So when I started thinking, and this is really what got me into sovereignty anyway, it's because I started thinking, for a start. That's the starting point. But I started thinking, why can't they just produce the document? It should be that simple. If it's an honest debt, if I borrow £1,000 from you guys, and then a year later, I say, okay, I forget how much money it was. Can you just write a bit of paper and sign it saying that I owe you 1,000? You'll do that, and then I'll pay you back, and that's the end of it, right?
Yeah.
But these guys, so anyway, I was wondering why, and they can't because they don't have it. And I thought it's something to do with derivatives, and derivatives are simple. You get thousands of mortgages, you put it on one deal, and you sell it. You know, you call it something like an asset-backed security, and you sell it. So it's been sold. But then I realised there never was a contract because I signed a promissory note, a promise to pay, and that promissory note was used as an asset to create the money, which means the bank didn't even have the money in the first place. My signature created it, so I created my own money, and behind my back, they gained from me.
Yeah.
So if you look at it, they actually owe me money.
Yeah.
Well, I believe in debt forgiveness, so I let them off.
Without your signature at the very, very start of the whole process, without your signature, there is never any money ever created anywhere. Your signature creates everything. It's the snowball effect for financial gain for financial institutions.
Isn't it a great power to have this signature?
Yeah.
Why don't we just stop using notes and just go and sign everything?
Yeah, well, that's what MPE is all about. Mathematically perfected economy is about, which I don't fully understand, but I hope to get some more schooling off Vinny about this. Is that you have a checkbook basically, and you just write your own checks. Yeah. That's it, because that's what the banks are getting you to do anyway. You walk in, you sign an application form, and they monetize that, and. Then they start making money off it. That's what they do. It's a
funny old system, isn't it? Like it's funny that people aren't interested enough into seeing that this cannot work. It's set up to not work. It's working perfectly. It's actually set up for this reason, isn't it?
I think people are afraid to look at it. A lot of people are genuinely afraid to look at it.
Absolutely.
They know there's something wrong, and they're just afraid to see what it is.
Yeah.
I feel that of a lot of people.
I mean, like let's just presume things continue the way they are, and the people of Ireland will vote yes, we'll say, or no, it doesn't really matter. We'll vote, and the government continue with the austerity, and people keep losing their jobs, and people lose Ireland, and there's more reliance on the state. And where's it going to go, guys? Where's the end? Where's the end?
Yeah.
The end is maybe Agenda 21, everybody off the land, that big central hub, that Chinese hub they want to build in Athlone. It'll be the super city in Ireland.
What's in Athlone, guys?
This big project, is it 100,000 square meters of a living complex?
It's a smart city. Smart city.
Yeah,
in Athlone, that they've done a deal with the Chinese.
Oh,
that's what it looks like, That'll be the central hub in Ireland, and everybody else off the land.
A version of the Venus Project, basically. As I call him, Inspector Cluedo, but that's not his actual name. Is Jacques? Is it Jacques Frisco?
I don't know.
Jacques Frisco, the Venus Project, which is part of the Zeitgeist Addendum movie, which is a lot of the Zeitgeist stuff I like, but I have a major problem with the Venus Project as it's again centralization of power through technology. And as
Gaia, Mother Earth, is more important than human beings. You know that rocks have higher.
That's not the Venus Project. That's Agenda 21. But
it's all the same thing, though. It's to take people off the land, take people away from the land, keep them in little smart zones.
Yeah.
Basically, nature will be off bounds. It's going to be anyway if Fukushima keeps going on like this.
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking at. That's one possible ending. Okay, great. So that's possible.
That's the dark ending, right? Yeah. The lighter ending is that, and the more grounded ending, from my point of view, is that the people are going to wake up en masse very, very shortly, and as the system starts to crumble more, that at the same time, what you're going to have is you're going to have a collective uprising at the same time. But it's a smart uprising. It's not an uprising where people go start shooting their neighbours over their food and take on the guards out in the street or whatever. It's more going to be about people actually coming together and setting up smart zones in their own area themselves, within their own small communities, like the likes of the Clonakilty with their favour exchange and the let system and all these different things, and people are just becoming autonomous in their own areas, Aidan, and starting from there, and that will come up at the same time as the ancient system is starting to collapse.
Sounds fantastic, James. I really hope it goes that way.
Well, that's what people are working towards now, Paul. That's what the Awaken Ireland Movement is all about.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing here. We're not just doing this for kicks.
I think we're not doing this for kicks. No, definitely not. I think that seems very plausible. Now, I understand that the people that I would know would think like that in general, but I'm starting to see that there's more and more people who would be very mainstream people, with filters in the water.
Yeah.
Because they don't want fluoride in their water.
Exactly.
There's people out there who don't watch TV anymore because they realise it's complete nonsense.
Yeah.
It's just rubbish.
Yeah.
So people are sort of, even though they don't know any of the knowledge, they don't know this what you know yet. They don't know a lot. I mean, we don't know a lot, but they're still sort of, part of them are waking up. They're not reading the newspapers. They don't really believe everything they say. I mean, but they're still paying water charges, and that water charge one is a crazy one,
Yeah.
But
Aidan, half the country hasn't paid the property tax
was it
yet.
half? What was the final figure for the new tax?
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. Half of the country hasn't paid,
Brilliant.
hasn't signed up. They haven't given their signature over for the fucking household charge. That is phenomenal. That is a boycott. That is a beautiful thing.
And Max Kaiser was saying he's serious hope for Ireland.
Absolutely,
right?
but sure, all of these groups, all these household charge groups around the country, they're now looking to move on to the next campaign. Now you see, they're not going to go away because they've now formed, a popular opinion, and that's a powerful thing in itself. And Paul Byrne up in Wicklow, in Auckram and in the surrounding areas, is connecting with all of these household charge groups. And we're going to start going up and talking to these people about sovereignty and different things, and alternative energies, about the fluoride situation. All these different things are going to be discussed to these groups because they're already formed. You see,
this I mean, you take a big jump with what you're I've seen your presentation a few times, and there's a big jump in it because it's so much to take if you're introduced to it for the first time.
Yeah.
But I think being sovereign, but sometimes you don't need to understand it all.
No.
In one, so maybe just taking that first step, like that's a huge thing for somebody not to pay the household tax, or
it is
because they feel they have to. They're afraid they could end up in prison.
Absolutely.
Out of force.
It's fear.
So 50%, that's great. It's beautiful, isn't it?
It is.
I think that I got my mum to not do it. I got her to send a letter. I got her to ring up as well and ask them, is this a lawful mandatory tax?
Yeah.
And they couldn't say yes to that. And she wrote them a letter and saying that she'd pay it on condition that they confirmed the blah blah blah. And they didn't. They wrote her back some nonsense. So I said, well, look, even they won't tell you to pay it.
Yeah.
So she didn't pay it. But it was it was great because my mum wouldn't be in. She'd be she wouldn't. No, and she thinks I'm crazy, basically. So, well, less so nowadays.
But I rang the household charge.ie website and I asked them, was there any lawful obligation to pay? And they said, well, no, there's legislation. I said, but is there any lawful obligation? They said, no, there's not.
No, I rang them as well, and I asked them, was it? I asked them, is this mandatory? And they said no. That was the words I used. They said no. It's a self-declaration tax. And I said, what happens if I don't declare myself? And she said, well, we'll fine you. I think it was 20% or 10%, I forget.
Then how is it not mandatory then?
And then I said, what happens if I don't? And I don't pay that. He goes, well, then and this a certain date, a year later, we fine you more. And I was like, okay, and how are you going to fine me? And she goes, oh, well, and I go, are you going to send me a letter? And she said, oh, we haven't decided that yet. And I was like, all right, so what you're going to do is you're going to just fine me through your computer and not inform me about how much you're going to fine me. Because I wanted to see what are they going to do. I wanted to see if they're going to send me a notice. I want to see what I have to deal with. And she says, oh, well, it's a self-deck. Basically, it's such nonsense.
It's just bullshit.
You have to sign up and give us your money, or else we're not going to tell you what we're going to do. Yeah. And not only that, but you've got a contract with us to give us money every year forever.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
What are we going to do, James? Come on, we should go around knocking on people's houses and tell them, come on, guys, wake up. We'll be like the Mormons. We can be the sovereign Mormons.
A little sovereign Bible going around the place.
And what are you still working with Harry and Vinny?
Harry and Vinny be down for the Project Awaken. They'll be doing a substantial talk as part of Project Awaken. They're talking a lot on TNS Radio. They're actually on before us on Sunday, where our show goes live at 12 o'clock, and they're on before us from 9 to 12. And I think Harry goes over with a bottle of wine and sits in Vinny's room and slugs away, and they chat about whatever.
There's so much happening out there. Like in the last year, I mean, there's these guys. There's Awaken Ireland, which is growing by the minute. Well, by the minute, by the week. There's more and more events. There's more and more people who are open to ideas of creating a better future for this country, and I think that's
Have you seen this Foster Gamble guy? He's very interested in the Awaken Ireland now as well. Have you seen that? That's
Foster Gamble, something to do with Thrive.
Yeah, he's the creator of Thrive. Yeah. And I
haven't seen it.
You should have a look at Thrive, man. Thrive is very good. There's only a few little bits in it now that I'll be dodgy about, but 99% of the Thrive is excellent, But yeah, he one of the lads from the Boghill Centre, Basil. Remember Basil with the Out There show?
Yeah,
he interviewed him during the week. A very good interview with him, actually. And we're going to get him on the show as well and have a chat with him soon,
Darren Gamble, that's good. You'll get some interesting stuff there.
Yeah.
I mean, you're probably on for me to say, like, I should be doing funny stuff, but I don't really. My funny stuff is a set itself, so I take what I want to talk about, and then I make it funny, whether it's fluoride or chemtrails or the banks, which is a major one, paying debt. But for me, in my own life, the main thing is I just don't take this shit anymore. I'm not sorry, I shouldn't be cursing. I'm not interested in companies telling me what to do. I'm not interested in parking tickets. I mean, I'm very responsible. I don't speed. I don't take people's lives at risk, but at the same time, if I want to park somewhere in a reasonable place, I'm not interested in somebody giving me a fine or a ticket.
Or clamping your car.
Well, I just took it off. They put a clamp on. I just took it off. I got Harry's angle grinder. It was Harry's angle grinder. I got Harry's angle grinder. We were taking the clamp off, and then the cops came over, and they wanted to know my name and all sorts of stuff. And I wouldn't give him my name, of course. I said, "What do you need my name for?" And he goes, "You've broken the law." And I said, "Have I? What law have I broken?" And he goes, "Under Provision Act, blah, 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 19. That's an act of the law. That's not the law. Are you claiming that an act of the law is the law?" And he said, and he goes, well, I mean, you just took a clamp off. And I go, "Excuse me, I did not take a clamp off. Clamp's still there." And he goes, "Well, you're destroying public property." And I said, "I didn't destroy anything, but it's not public property, it's private property. It's owned by a corporation, which makes it a civil matter. And I'm sure if the owner of that clamp has a problem with it, they'll send me a letter, and if they do, I'll deal with it in due course." And he didn't know what to do. He was a nice fella, actually, and but I accepted his oath. I said, "Listen, guard, I accept your oath, and I appreciate the work that you do, keeping peace in this country, and I respect you, the Gardaí, and all human beings. But I accept your oath as a protector of the peace, and I don't see any breach of the peace here. So have a nice day." And I went to walk off, but then he kidnapped me. He put his hand on me, and he pulled me back. He says, "You're not going anywhere. You have to tell me your name." And I wouldn't tell him my name, James. I didn't want to tell him my name, because, well, I just didn't feel I had to, really. That was
you don't have reason. You don't have to, unless there's a breach of the peace. You don't have to. And
that's it. And I didn't really know exactly what I was doing. I'm not an expert or anything, but I just and he got impatient with me. He's like, "Tell me your name." And I was like, "I don't have to tell you my name." And I go, "What's your name?" And he goes, "John, now tell me your name." And I go, "Okay, well, John, you can call me Aidan." "Aidan what?" "Asher, John, we're on first name terms at this stage." I even smiled a bit, like, even in fairness to him, So, but I ended back in the station, and I realised something when I was arrested. I didn't mind. I don't really mind being in a cell for the night. It's fine. It's very basic, The service isn't great.
You can do some meditation. You get some me time.
Where was this, Aidan? I jumped out there for a second. Where were you in prison?
He was cutting the clamp off his car at an angle grinder in Dublin.
And you got locked up for that?
I didn't get locked up. They just cut me in for a few hours. They're going to keep me overnight, but they stole my wallet, and in my wallet there was a check, and the name Aidan Killian was on the check, and he said, "Is that you?" I said, "Don't be ridiculous, that's just ink." But they stuck the name into the computer, and I think they realised it was a comedian, to be honest with you, because they stuck it into Google, and as soon as they came back, once they had the name, they were all smiles, you know. I'm not sure if it was just being smug because they got my name or what. But they let me go then, you know. And that was it. They told me to come back in a week. And you know, I thought that was nice of them to invite me back. But
did you take the invitation?
I didn't go back. You know, who knows? I might still. But that was 6 months ago or something. But I'm not.
Maybe they wanted to put on a party for you.
Yeah, tea party.
Yeah, maybe they.
A sovereign tea party. Mad Hatter.
We have Aidan Killian in the station for some afternoon comedy.
I'd love to do, you know, one of the things that I think is really...
Folsom City Blues. Folsom Prison Blues.
Sorry, say that again, Aidan, please.
I'd love to do a comedy gig, or, you know, not just a comedy. I'd love to do something that the cops, that the Gardaí could see, because the Gardaí are important. The Gardaí are in a difficult situation, right? They've all bought houses, they all have mortgages, they're living in fear of their job too, so they're doing what they're told, right? And that's a very dangerous position when the Gardaí don't think for themselves and they have to do what they're told.
Yeah,
and that seems to be the way it is.
And
but
stuff
I mean,
like that, yeah.
If they were educated, if we could get Gardaí to be sovereign. I mean, Irish people are great people, so that means the Gardaí are great too. Now I know a lot of people have issues with the guards, but not. They're still. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, they're not perfect, but they could be worse. And I think if we could get Gardaí on our side more, we'd be in a great situation. You know,
and to realise their role as peacekeepers.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the Gardaí...
That's it. That you said it in one there, Paul.
A lot of Gardaí don't realise that they're working for a corporation, because, I mean, you can sell the service of the Gardaí to, you know, O2 or to the Rugby Union of Ireland or to the FAI or whatever. You know, you can just sell on the services. That's what they do. They get paid to go and police soccer matches and hurling matches and rugby matches. That's what they do. They're actually, they're a service.
An organisation, yeah.
They don't realise this. They don't realise they're working as a corporate entity, that their wages are coming from the Crown, realistically, at the end of the day, and now the European Union. Yeah, that's where they're coming from. They ain't coming from the Irish people anymore. And that's really, I think when they start to realise that, Paul, you said that to a guard, didn't you? That you said that, you know, you not realise that you're working for a corporation.
Yeah, I sure did.
What did you just walk up to a strange guard, or was there an incident?
It's an ex-landlord of mine actually, and I just had a little chat with him, and he was quite shocked. I don't actually want to say very much more about it on the radio.
But that's enough, Paul. Anyway, you know, I mean, that's just the reality. They don't know. They don't know the difference between lawful and legal. I've got 3 friends who are guards. I've had conversations with them about this stuff. Yeah. Right? They don't know. All they know is legislation. Yeah. I've had guards turn around and ask me about law in relation to debt. They've asked me about law in relation to family law, because I've had to go through that with my son, my ex-partner. You know, that's they just don't know. They're locked into, they're compartmentalised for this, but they can ream off, you know, hundreds of fucking legislative acts and sections and this and that, but when it comes to actual law, they know very little. Yeah. And that's just their training. It's not their fault, that's just the way they've been trained. And
they actually believe they're doing the right thing.
They do believe they're doing the right thing.
That their role is the proper role.
That's
that
why
they play,
if you're going to be accosted by a guard, getting smart with them is the wrong thing to do, because they're going to go into groupthink straight away and act like pack animals, and they're going to end up either going to be schmacks or throwing you into a cell for the night or whatever. Like, do you know what I mean? There is a way.
I got smacked before by one of them as well.
Yeah, you know. So it's they will react accordingly, depending on how they feel they should react.
Yeah.
Depending on who's in front of them, really. You know?
I personally have never had trouble with guards.
Either have I.
Yeah.
Either have I. You know.
That's not true.
Oh yes, it is.
I've never had trouble either. I've had an experience with them, but I've never had any trouble.
There you go.
Never had any trouble. You know.
What's happening there anyway? Are you taking them to the?
Yeah, that's happening. Yeah, circuit court. That'll be happening very soon. There's a bill gone in there now, and it's the bill is outstanding, and I've got a letter back saying that that they're not going to pay it.
Yeah.
So it's I don't want to go into too much detail on the radio, but that'll be coming up shortly when that's all finished and done and dusted, and we'll have a conversation about it.
Bring it out in the public, in the public domain.
I look forward to seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Gardaí, and I like people in Ireland, and I'd like them to be a little bit more aware of the law. Maybe we can do something to help them. Maybe I can make a few videos and send it to them or something. Hand, guys.
That sounds fantastic. That sounds like a plan, actually.
Because if you make something funny enough, you know, like if we actually had that on video, you know, the lines with me and the guard, you know, and getting arrested. If that was on video, and Pete Gardaí saw that, they'd laugh. You know. So
here's an idea for you, Aidan. Right? You know that Dara Kenny's doing the rap news, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you hook up
Dara
Dara
O'D, isn't it?
No. Yeah. Seamus O'Day.
Seamus O'Day.
Seamus O'Day. Right. Seamus O'Day's doing the rap news, right? And why don't you hook up with him and do up a little video, dress up in Garda uniform and do all that crack, and do up a skit.
Maybe I'm just not into rap though. Like.
No, not rap.
Does rap begin with a capital C?
No, I'm not talking about doing a rap. Doing an actual skit. Actually, just get someone to record it and just do a comedy sketch in costume with the Garda and a guy, you know, side of the road having a sovereign debate.
I think that would be good actually. Who could be the guard? Who wants to be the guard?
Get Vinny to do it.
Vinny would be a good guard. Would he do it?
He's got the height for it.
He would do. Would he do it? I'd say.
He would do it. He would. He'd love it.
He's too intelligent for the role.
Oh, a little dig there by Paul. So that sounds like you could do a lot with that, you know.
Yeah.
So especially great. We might do that. There's so many things to do. So life is good, guys. Is there anything else to discuss?
Oh no, we'll leave it there, man. That's 50 minutes, man. So that's a nice long discussion, interview, casual chat that we've had.
Yeah. And
covered a lot of ground there, which is great. And
it'll probably be censored anyway, Aidan. You know, we'll probably take out half it.
Yeah, Vinny will get his virtual fucking scissors and cut out half of that.
Well, I'm not sure. Are we finished now? Is it off the air?
No, we're going to finish up there now, so you can say goodbye to the listeners.
Goodbye, everybody. I wish you, love and truth, and I wish you all the best at being the most amazing version of yourself, the most amazing sovereign version of yourself, now and forever.
And I'm sure all our listeners out there wish you the exact same, Aidan.
Thanks, guys.
And I hope they do anyway. Well, I do.
Thanks, Aidan. And that was Aidan Killian giving us a brief rundown of what's happening in his world. Aidan, as you know, is an observational comedian and finds the funny side of life in all sorts of strange and wonderful experiences that he has. And we hope to have Aidan on the show again, give us another update from his funny side of life. Here's another song from the Civil Wars called Barton Hollow. And that was the wonderful harmonic tones of an American duo called the Civil Wars. And now we move on to our next segment, an update from Paul Byrne from Awaken Wicklow. And on Skype we have Paul Byrne from Awaken Wicklow. Paul, how you doing?
Hey James, hey Paul, how you doing? I'm grand. Yourselves?
Good.
Fine, absolutely fine.
So I heard you've been busy there in the last couple of weeks. We haven't been speaking to you. It's 2 or 3 weeks since the last time we had you on the show. This is actually show 6, believe it or not.
Yeah, there's been a lot happening. Yeah, keeping busy. On Wednesday there, like I said to you on the last time I was talking to you, that we're planning to approach the household charge. Local anti-household charge group here, and explain the Awaken Ireland movement to them, and see can we join our forces, and they were receptive to that. So as a result of that, we had Ben Gilroy, John Squires, Raymond Whitehead, and Claire Leonard down on Wednesday night.
Oh, Claire's great. Yeah, she's a real powerhouse.
Oh, unbelievably so. Yeah, I was very impressed with Claire.
Where was this, in Wicklow, Paul, on Wednesday? Was it?
It was in Tinnahealy in Wicklow, yeah.
Right, okay. How did it go?
It went very well. There's about 60 people there.
Excellent.
They came from, a few from a lot of local a lot of towns in a radius of about, I suppose, 10 miles, something like that. And we had it in Murphy's Hotel in Tinnahealy there. So it was a nice sized crowd for the room we had. Just, it was not full to bursting capacity, but it was full,
Right.
And everybody was very impressed and very happy with the night, very much so, and the feedback has been great. They were very blown away, literally, by the information that Ben and Co imparted to them. And there's follow-up meetings planned now. We have another meeting on Tuesday to discuss some of the points raised and to move forward. So overall, the anti-household charge group were very pleased that with the development as a way to take their campaign forward, you know.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. What sort of stuff did they cover in the meeting?
Oh, loads now. Well, first of all, Ben Gilroy started off, and he started off explaining the massive casino banking that went on in this country during the boom.
Sure.
And I mean, a lot of people don't realise, including myself, and I consider myself quite knowledgeable about it, but there's always loads you don't know. The extent to which this economic crisis is just not our fault is massive. The bankers were outrageously flaunting liquidity laws, and this is the crux of this crisis, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys have a very good understanding of it, and they are able to explain it. They're very what would you call it? They're very man on the street in their manner, you know.
Yeah, layman's terms.
Yeah, real people, you know. No airs and graces.
Which is fantastic. Yeah.
And they have some videos, you know, which explain it very well. They start off firstly with some videos just to remind people of what our current government said just before they came in. They have a very, very informative video of Leo Varadkar saying, not one red central. If Fine Gael gets into power, not one red central the banks get. We're not giving them any money. It's outrageous. And what a turnaround he made. And the same with Michael Noonan. They have a speech. They have a video of him giving a speech in the Dáil, explaining or giving out about our country, the then Fianna Fáil government agreeing to pay non-secure bondholders. You know, you know, to quote him, he's saying, "What a disaster! What a disgrace! What a crime!" And
what a crime! Yeah.
Again, they only went into the Dáil and just went, "Yeah, we're paying. We're tonight Matthew will be Fianna Fáil," you know. But people don't realise, you know, people forget, including ourselves, including me, just exactly how much they lie. So they started off the meeting with that and explained. They have a very interesting video, which is an Australian TV programme, which is about a German fella. I believe his name is David Sugarman, although I'd have to check that name. I think that's his name. And he was working in the IFSC, and he's essentially a whistleblower. He revealed that they were his bank Unicredit were flaunting liquidity laws left, right and centre. He was okaying 5 billion worth of loans that they didn't have the liquidity to back per day. And he told the CEO, and the CEO said, that's just a systems error, you know, don't worry about that, just, this is Ireland, crack on, you know.
Yeah.
And he didn't get any reaction when he was doing his job, which was to watch out for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So overall, the point of showing that information and talking about it was to reassure these people that this crisis is not their fault and not our fault. It's purely the fault of the banking sector, and we shouldn't have to pay for it.
Exactly. It's non-sovereign debt, you know. Odious debts.
Odious debt, exactly. It's an odious debt, and as you guys know, and just for the benefit of the listeners, an odious debt, when a government makes it or puts a debt on the people, it basically signs away their birthright. That's illegal. They're not allowed to do that. The government, under the international law, are not allowed to do what they've done. It's illegal.
Yeah.
It's an odious debt, and odious debts do not have to be paid. And there's a case now in it's Lesotho, I think, in Africa, where the government did the same thing, and there's a court case now that set a precedent in international law, or not even set a precedent. It's fought on a point of international law that odious debt is odious debt, and it doesn't have to be paid.
Mm-hmm.
So Ben and People for Economic Justice have summoned the government over this, and they are putting together their statement of claim at the moment. They got a reply from the Attorney General, and they're Michael Noonan and Enda Kenny, as the incumbents, are going to have to go to the High Court and answer these charges. So it'll be very interesting to see how that pans out. So they explained that to the people, and then they went on into talking about their action to prevent evictions and to sack receivers, which they did recently.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very, very informative presentation they give. And the people in the audience had never come across this information before. Ben and John are very knowledgeable on the law and legalese, and you know it's basically word games. And when when the law is followed to the letter, most of the carry-on that's going on financially now with people's properties being taken because of this crisis is illegal and unlawful, and can be stopped by simply educating ourselves about it.
And exercising our rights.
Yes, yeah. Then they also they moved on then to there was a lot of questions. Ben spoke for about over an hour, I'd say, and then after him Raymond Whitehead spoke, and Raymond, it was the founder, the guy who set up the
Direct Democracy,
Democracy Ireland Party. Now I'll just state here, as we, I know and you know, and all in Awaken Ireland know, Awaken Ireland is a non-party political group. From this event was not an Awaken Ireland event as such. As a member of Awaken Ireland, I put the two groups together really because they're both searching for solutions. Yeah, and it's a positive action to put them in contact with each other.
And there's no harm in acknowledging what the work that these guys are doing in that area. You know?
Exactly. Now, so it was in association with Awaken Ireland. So the Direct Democracy Party that Raymond set up, when he saw Ben in action down in Mount Rat, stopping the sheriff repossessing a home, he said that he'll approach Ben and John to restart the Direct Democracy Ireland Party, which had become defunct, and that's what they did. So they see this as a solution, and they explained their objectives and their outlook on it to the people. And the only question, which was a concern of the people, and quite rightly so, is people are very wary, to the point of being allergic to the term politics.
Sure, yeah.
As I am, as
we all are,
because we've been so badly treated by the political class. And but they explained what their approach is, and the thing was debated quite at length, and everyone was quite satisfied at the end of the discussion. So, can
you give us a quick summary exactly? Because I don't fully understand exactly what they're trying to do. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea is to get independent representatives across the country to get elected in the next election, to force an election soon, hopefully, and to get elected in that election. And these independents will have a contract with the people to basically be able to amend or to rewrite the constitution, to restructure the government, and that they will basically collapse the government so that they can do this, similar to what Iceland did. Is that the idea?
More or less, yeah. The idea is direct democracy is a mechanism which gives the people of the country the final say on what happens in the country via referendum. Referendum becomes a very, a matter of course. It's rather than having to beg or wait for, or not even beg or wait for, we have a referendum whenever the government, who are always corrupt, decide that they'll give us a referendum, which is hardly ever. And then when we vote, they tell us that's the wrong answer. You have to vote again.
Exactly.
So, realistically, we don't have the power of referendum at all. In effect. So the idea with direct democracy is that referendum becomes a commonplace thing. So there were two articles in the original constitution, which was from 1922, I believe, which allowed for this mechanism, Articles 47 and 48. And they were removed by the first government before they were ever used, first Fianna Gael government. They sneakily removed them. They put a postponement on it for 8 years, and then postponed it for another 8 years. And then people just basically forgot the state was new, and there was a lot going on, and they just shelved it and they took them out. So the idea with Direct Democracy Ireland is to, as you say, have people in communities all around the country put forward who they want to represent them. The person will be on a short leash, as in they can be recalled and sacked at any time if they break, as you say, the contract they have with the people of the area. Yeah. Now, I think that it hasn't proper or fully been detailed out the exact workings of that, but the opinion of the people up at this meeting was that you could have individual contracts between different groups. You wouldn't have to have a one-size-fits-all. The people in a community put forward a person on their own terms. If you represent us. If you don't represent us and do what we say, you're out. Yeah. those people would stand for election, get elected ideally, and go into the Dáil, and a referendum would be held at the soonest possible opportunity to ask the people of the country, do you want direct democracy provisions reinstated in the Constitution? If the people say yes, if the people say no, that's their decision. If the people say yes, those provisions come back into the Constitution, and we then have the mechanism to have the final say on any law, and also to table legislation, and also to retrospectively re-examine all the laws, all the bills passed into law since the foundation of the state, because we have the people would have the power to completely redesign how the country is worked and structured.
That sounds good to be true for me. In a sense that I don't see how we can actually do that, Paul, unless the political establishment was restructured itself. The party political process was completely overhauled, because the way it currently is set up, it favours the large parties. So even if there was a lot of independents that were voted in on a national level, that would be very, very difficult to get a majority to be able to form a government anyway, to be able to implement these ideas,
Well, it would be difficult, but we'll have it's something to try, I mean, it's we have to find a solution somewhere. So I mean, it's certainly worth trying. And if you look at Switzerland, there's a functioning direct democracy in Switzerland, and it works, although it's quite complicated. It has this canton system.
Yeah,
it's not exactly ideal either. It's quite it's quite intricate. The cantons are quite small in Switzerland.
Don't get me wrong. I'm totally for direct democracy and reinstating Articles 47 and 48.
Yeah,
I'm very much in favour of that. The problem I would have would be how we could actually, in reality, make that happen, to get ourselves in the position to be able to create a situation where we can get these articles put back in. I find that's the biggest obstacle that we face as a people.
Yeah, it is. I mean, one way of doing it, I suppose, is what we were hoping to do. The intention is to introduce this concept to the anti-household charge group, because that group consists of more than half the people in the country.
Yeah,
overall,
it's huge. Yeah,
the way to do it is through a mass movement, and that's what's needed to affect change in a country. It always takes a mass movement.
I think so. I don't think it can be done any other way, because the old establishment will always run through otherwise, because people fall back under pressure to what they habitually know. Unfortunately, that is the nature of humans. That's what we do.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So to be successful, it has to be an appealing choice for the people of the country. It has to be simple. It has to be centred on the people's intentions. It has to be for Ireland's good and for the good of the Irish people.
Yeah.
And the mood at the meeting was very much in that respect, because people were very wary. Say the word political party and
they're like
immediately,
Yeah, get out quick, run.
Paul, speaking of good things for Ireland, is there any updates on LENR technology from Rossi or from that Greek company, what are they called?
Defcalion.
Yeah.
There is, yeah. There was an update from Andrea Rossi in the last week, where he has said that he has got his technology stable at 600 degrees, which means he's creating 600, steam at 600 degrees, which is hot enough to power conventional efficient electrical turbines, electrical generation. Yeah. And he seems to be powering ahead. Again, that will have to be verified. We're all very keen to see one of these things, but at the moment with that story, there's so many people involved now. The mind boggles as to how it could be how it couldn't be have some value in it. It must be true to some extent. So let's hope so. And then Defcalion have said that they're going to launch in July. Both companies have kind of went quiet, which you could look at and say, where are they gone? Or you could look at it and say, well, they're concentrating on getting their product to market, and more so than answering skeptical questions
yeah.
And wasting their time,
Yeah.
So that's the update on them. I saw an interesting article about 2 days ago about a company called Blacklight, who have got confirmation. What would you say? respectable confirmation of their technology, which is to create hydrogen efficiently from water.
Okay.
So I want to read up more on that. I just briefly looked at that. So that's another new emerging technology as well. And also in the energy field, I listened to a very, very interesting article or interview done by Basil Parle from Awaken Ireland and his co-presenter Mark, I'm not sure what his surname is, with Foster Gamble, the guy who made the Thrive movie.
Yeah.
That movie is all about the possibilities of what the world can be like with a cheap energy source. He is, I think you've heard the interview, he's very interested in the Awaken Ireland movement, and he actually joined up the Facebook page.
That's right.
So
he did, yeah.
I haven't had a chance to get in contact with him yet, but I will do over the next few days.
We're going to get him on the show in the next couple of weeks, next 2 or 3 weeks anyway. That's the plan, you know.
Great. Now, one of the things he said in his interview was that because cheap energy, clean energy is one of his mainstays of his approach, he said that he has been in factories, multiple factories, where people have working new energy sources and they're just waiting for the will and the waiting to launch them, basically.
Yeah.
So I'd be very interested to hear him expand on that.
Fantastic. I love it. Come here, tell me what's happening there in Ogram, and you were talking with some of the village elders there recently about the turning the windmill that's there into a hydroelectric power plant.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting thing. I mean, I think that it's funny the way things work out. We had you were at it yourself. We had an event called Awaken Wicklow, which was a night of presentations where I give my presentation, yourself and Paul.
Yeah.
And several others. Wasn't a huge turnout at it, but because of that, because we did that, one of my friends from town, who actually wasn't there, came to me and said, I like what you're doing, and I like the fact that you're doing something.
Yeah.
Not just talking about doing something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're active.
He says, would you be interested in having a look at an idea that one of the heads of the Tidy Towns here has to install a micro hydro unit on the old flour mill down the town.
Yeah.
So I said, I would, yeah. Great. So
there's a bear in the woods.
Exactly, yeah. So I went. We discussed this, and we met up with a man from the town here who's one of the village elders, as you say, and he's the head of one of the heads of the Tidy Towns Committee here, and the Tidy Towns Committee in Ockram have been very successful. They won the national competition a couple of times.
Fantastic.
The town is a lovely little village,
Yeah.
They do great work, and he's really eager to do this project. And we got a guy who supplies this equipment down to assess the potential power capacity of the mill race there. And it's a potential goer. So what we're going to. It can be put there, and it would generate. I think what he said was a minimum of 100 kilowatts.
Wow,
that's conservative. That's nearly enough to run the village,
Yeah, fantastic. Well, a bit of tweaking then, you could absolutely run the whole village then. If that's the case.
Yeah, well, that's a conservative, and he said that is a conservative. He'd be more of the opinion that it's up over 150. Yeah. So that was the assessment. So what we're going to do is. Get a feasibility study done. That's the next step, he advised us, into it, and we'll see if it's doable. That'd be great, but we're definitely going to pursue it, and we'd hope to try to trial something like that in Ockram. There's a lot of old mill races around Wicklow, because Wicklow's hilly,
yeah,
which would be suitable, which would have enough head and enough flow.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that, as I say, that happened. It's not an Awaken Ireland direct project, but it's under the umbrella, Awaken in a large extent has been a catalyst to bring the idea forward.
Fantastic.
That's what I see as a great thing, and I think things like this across all subjects would be very great to see,
Yeah. I mean, the people of Awaken Ireland, we're not looking for credit for anything. We just want to get things going. That's all we want to do. Let's just get people active in their different areas. Let's let them look at different areas that they mightn't be too familiar with, but using the skills that they already have and the knowledge that they have, invest time in alternative energies, alternative economic ideas, other ways of looking at the law. There's so many different ways of looking at things, how people organise in the community and see themselves and see, setting up individual councils in their own towns we're just reorganising ourselves and looking at the world through different eyes, through a different lens, really,
Absolutely, yeah. And my friend who came to me with that idea also put me onto a thing called Mondragon, which is the world's largest co-op, and it's in the Basque country in Spain.
All right.
And have you heard of that, Paul? I thought you commented there. No, Mondragon is a co-op that I've only begun to look into it, so I don't know a lot of details about it, but it employs 83,000 people.
Okay.
Basically, people taking charge of their own area and doing things cooperatively, on a community level, and it was so successful. It started in the late 40s. It's branched into nearly all aspects of their economic life, and social life too.
Have they got a dual currency going there, have they?
I don't know, James. I've only just found out about it a couple of days ago, and I have a bookmark to look into it more. I only know what my friend explained to me briefly.
Okay.
But our idea is to do something similar to that around here, to start doing things cooperatively. In all aspects, in food growing, in
everything.
Alternative currencies, absolutely, that's going to be needed. It's a reality that it's going to be needed very soon. Some means of exchange.
Absolutely.
So the idea being with the hydro project and with cooperative ideas, if it can be started somewhere and successfully done, you go through the trials and tribulations of it, find what works, find what doesn't, and create a template that other places can do.
Yeah.
But that would be the ideal. That's what we're looking to do,
Fantastic. You've any more questions for Paul there, Paul? Paul?
No, not at the moment, actually. I'm coming down with a cold or something.
Okay. Well, that's great, Paul. Thanks very much for the update. And you're going up to Dublin Saturday night or Sunday? You're going up to the Financial Terrace next week?
I'll be up there, yeah. You're going up yourself, yeah?
Yeah, I'm going up tomorrow night, and I'm going to meet up with a few of them beforehand. And we're going to be there on the morning, nice and bright and early. I'm going to bring up my my portable radio recording device and do interviews up there. Called Vox Pop interviews with the public and with anyone that's around, really, as well as the speakers. And then we're going to put it into the show for the following week.
Excellent, yeah. Well, I will. I'm really looking forward to it now, and I'll see you up there on Sunday. And I'm coming up with a couple of people, and
great.
Look forward to it now.
Brilliant. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, thanks. Great talking to you guys. See you soon.
Talk to you soon.
See you Sunday. Good luck.
Thanks. Bye.
And that was a song from the same band again. Called The Civil Wars. That song was Falling, a beautiful rendition, I have to admit. And the final segment for the show tonight is a segment on finance, gold and silver, fiat currency, how it all operates, the origins of money, and a few tips and suggestions from Stefan Kramer-Celtic Gold, how we can actually help ourselves to be more autonomous away from the current global fiefdom of finance. So thanks very much for listening in the show again this week, and we'll catch up with you soon next week. Live show again from 12 to 3 on Sunday. Thanks very much for listening in. And on Skype we have Stefan Kramer of a company called Celtic Gold. Hi Stefan, welcome to the show.
Hello James, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. You'll be aired on our 6th show of Awaken Ireland Radio. And Stefan, you've been in finance now for many years before you decided to switch over to trading silver and gold. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, well, that's right, yes. I'm in the business for almost 16 years, starting off as a financial advisor in Germany. And since 2006, we're selling gold and silver as in physical form, like bullion and coins, to our clients.
Okay, so before we go into the silver and the gold, let's go into a bit of a background about you. You decided to get into finance many years ago, 16 years ago, in fact, in Germany, and you said to me there that they don't have kind of an advisory role there for you when you start off first, that you have to go in at like a university, at university level within the companies, and you get trained that way. Isn't that correct?
That's right. It changed a couple of years ago, but at the time I started, every company, which were usually big firms in the market, they had their own universities where you could go and train and get your exams and stuff.
So they pretty much teach you whatever they want you to know, whatever the market desires for you guys to learn before you actually become, fully employed in the company.
Yes. It's a bit different in the German area. So you're like self-employed, but you're a contractor of the company. But actually, you are a part of them.
Okay. And how long did it take you to realize that something was wrong then in that system?
Well, it took me actually a long time. I worked 5 years for Germany's biggest firm, and I ranked amongst the 200 best advisors at the time, and the company employed 25,000 at the time.
Wow.
So after 5 years, I decided to do my own thing and founded ProCent in 2001, which still runs to the very day in Germany. And I didn't really know much about the monetary stuff, although I had done everything I could on the trainee things and exams and stuff. So 2006, a customer and friend called me and he said, "How, Stefan, what about silver as an investment?" And I didn't know. So I said, well, let me look into it. Mm-hmm. And then I started to research, and I found out about fractional banking and paper money and all of that things. And then I just said to my uncle, who worked 40 years for a bank, I said, "Look, do you know these things?" And he said, "No, I don't." So I was quite shocked at the time.
I mean, that's quite surprising to hear that somebody that worked in the industry for 40 years, I'm presuming at a high level, had no knowledge of the fractional reserve banking system and how that operated and how money was created, because, you would think that the people who control the banks would have some sort of knowledge.
No, they don't actually, which is the interesting news. So the advisor that you talk to about your insurance, or about the person in the bank that you talk about a savings account or a loan, doesn't have any knowledge of these things. And all the old folk that are like 70 or 80 years old now, they are like the last generation who were there in a direct experience when we came from the gold standard into the paper currencies.
Mm-hmm. Which happened after Bretton Woods in America after the Second World War. That'd be correct, wouldn't it?
Well, the Bretton Woods was called a gold exchange standard, because the US dollar that was officially backed by gold was being viewed as being gold. And the worldwide currencies started to be unbacked by gold from 1971 on.
That's after the Nixon shock, is it?
Sorry?
After the Nixon shock in America?
The Nixon, yes, that's right. France caused it, actually, in 1969.
Okay.
So they wanted to redeem their dollars into gold. And, well, we don't really know what happened there, but I think someone walked down to the wall, started to count, and said, well, look, actually, we don't have enough gold to pay out France.
Right, okay.
And when that happened, they started to discuss, why do we even need a gold-backed currency? Mm-hmm. The most interesting thing is that as a German, obviously I researched the German history as well, the German Deutschmark was never backed by gold.
Was it not?
But no, it wasn't. Everyone believed it was, but it actually wasn't. So I think, this is not a proven fact, I think that the Americans started the big paper currency experiment with Germany after the Second World War, and then just decided, oh, well, it may actually be okay.
Mm-hmm. Because the current global system is based on confidence. It's all about market confidence, isn't that right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no gold-backed currency anymore. The last gold-backed currency was the Swiss franc in 1996.
Oh.
Yeah. The problem is the IMF. If you're a member of the IMF statutes say if you remember, you're not allowed to have a gold-backed currency.
Right. Okay. And why is that, do you think?
Well, if you have a gold-backed currency, you can't really extend the money mass as you want, because you're always on how much gold there is in the world and how much papers you can print for it. And that's not really in the global interest of the IMF and the big players.
They want to be able to print money out of thin air, basically.
That's right, because if you sit next to the button of the money printing machine, which is obviously a computer in these days, so then you can easily control everything, because you control the daily lives of literally everyone that's dependent on the currency.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And this is what they want. I'm sorry to say that, but if you say, if your agenda is control, which is the central bank's agenda,
mm-hmm.
then you need to have these mechanisms. So let's say you worked in your life and you saved up 10,000 euros or dollars or pounds or whatever currency you're in.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have saved that and it's in 30 years time, it's not worth anything, then this is what they want.
Yeah, exactly. They can decide, whether they want a recession, they can decide whether they want a depression, they can decide whether they want a boom. It all depends on how much money that they want to circulate into the nation's economies of the world,
Yes.
I mean, they just decided there, after the collapse of the current boom in Ireland, 2008, they decided that they were going to retract money from the economy and to stop printing it, basically, and stop giving out the cheap credit, and
yes.
That's what created the shortage of cash in society.
Yes.
After the collapse of the derivatives banking system brought on by the subprime mortgage lending in the UK, which was, in my understanding of that, Stefan, is that it's like pass the parcel, and whoever's actually opens the present and realises that it's a bomb that they have, well, the music will stop.
Yes, I don't know how this game is called, but it's a little bit like when you run around these chairs and there's always one chair less than people running around this row of chairs.
Yes.
Then it's like the last one is stuffed, right?
Yeah, that's I used to play this game when I was a kid in the kitchen and for birthday parties, and somebody would end up sitting on the floor when there was only one chair left. And there was two people running around the chair, and you could slam on the bomb would get slammed on the floor, and that's basically what the current system is, and it was highlighted as that fraud after the subprime, mortgage system was brought out through the derivatives stock market system to show that it was a complete sham, and that that they were selling these products to the American people who really couldn't afford to pay them back long term, and they were packaged up then with top class products, financial products, like pensions and government bonds.
Yes.
And a whole lot of them then were turned into junk then after that. Nobody knew it. It was just like a game of pass it on, and sell it and make profit.
Yeah. Yes.
But let's go back to
they're still doing it.
They're still doing it, Jeb, because it's such a mess. It's such a mess that they don't know how to stop it at this stage. It's a monster, But let's go back to the money creation again before we go into the current mess that we have. There was a book that was written called The Wealth of Nations by a professor. I can't remember his name now, and he basically said that it's not a good idea to have money backed by gold anyway, because if you do, well, then the people who have the most gold are going to control world affairs, and they're going to want to take the gold from other countries that have a lot of gold as well.
Well, so I come from a history of money, and I studied these things in depth for many years now. I can say that this is a point, but it's not the overall picture.
Mm-hmm.
So if you study monetary history, and there is one book I highly recommend to all the people that are interested in these things. There's one book that was published a couple of years ago, which is considered to be one of the 5 most influential books on economics, and this book is called, this time it's different, 800 Years of Financial Folly, and it was written by 2 economic scientists, Kenneth Rogoff and Carmen M. Reinhardt.
Mm-hmm.
So if you type that into Google, you immediately pop into to Amazon or somewhere where you can buy the book. And there's a lot of videos and information out there in the internet. And these people found out that it is throughout the 800 years of history that they researched, over 80 countries, financial crises happen always.
Mm-hmm.
And the pattern is always the same.
Mm.
And a crisis can only occur when a currency is man-made or manipulated.
Mm-hmm.
So in the old days, there was no paper currency, right? This is like a modern invention, invented from the Bank of England in the 19th century. In the old days, there was copper being mixed into the silver coins.
Okay.
To the extent that they had like 95% copper in it and then 5% silver coating.
Right.
So in the old days, this was the way of counterfeiting money. And in the modern days, you just simply create another trillion out of nothing.
Yeah.
And the authors, they are not like pro gold, especially, but the conclusion is amazing. Over this last 800 years, monetary history they researched, they found out that the only times where things were calm and peaceful and evolving was when gold was used as money, and it wasn't counterfeited by the parties, usually governments and church in the past. So I don't really agree on this point that a nation that has a gold standard sets itself up to like a massive danger.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, but that was the basis of the reasons why they got rid of the gold standard, according to the history that I've been reading about Bretton Woods. That they decided they wanted to change the way they went about doing things because of the recommendations in that book, and that's just a little bit of a history on that, you know.
Yeah.
So you think that we should go back to a gold standard again? That's your position on it?
Well, I'm not so much in the position to say should we go back to the gold standard, because the Western countries simply don't have any gold left. So yeah. I think it's a terrible idea to think about it, because if you don't have any gold, how could you ever go back on a gold standard?
Exactly, yeah.
So the official statistics of the central bank's reserves, they don't tell the truth. So pick the American Federal Reserve with over 8,000 tons. We know that for certain there is thousands of these tons that are being lent out. And that actually leads me into the manipulation that goes on for almost 100 years now.
Yeah.
So the manipulation of the gold price is not a big secret that needs to be exposed, because it's under our noses all the time. So it started with the devaluation of gold in 1933 by the Federal Reserve, when they actually figured out that they don't have too much gold in their walls as they printed dollars. So they dropped the gold price from $33 an ounce down to $20.71. So people had to deliver gold at this fixed rate and redeem these gold into dollars. So that's the first thing. And then they founded the gold pool in the 60s because they figured out a low gold price is the best thing they could do. Because if you have a high gold price, it indicates how strong or weak the currency is. If you look at it backwards. So a low gold price indicates a strong currency. So the gold pool in the 60s was like a big mess because they dumped hundreds and hundreds of millions, which was at the time, compared to now, inflation adjusted, probably trillions. They dumped that into the gold market and sold gold to suppress the price, and they worked more or less successfully until we went into the late 70s, where gold started to rise towards its all-time high in 1980 to $850. So that was a bit shocking. So the gold pool ended in a complete disaster, and then they invented the gold carry trade. The gold carry trade is the Federal Reserve says, look, we have all this gold, but it doesn't earn us any interest. That's one of the biggest arguments for people against the gold standard. They say gold doesn't do anything to us. It doesn't earn anything. So they said, oh, okay, well, why don't we lend the gold out? And usually to London, to big bullion banks. And so the bullion bank says, okay, we're going to take this 500 tons and we're paying you 0.5% interest or 1% interest. And what is the bullion bank doing with the gold? Well, they just sell it. But officially, you have these 500 tons. It's your gold, but you lend it out, right? It's like when you lend your neighbor 1,000 euros, you still own the 1,000 euros, but it's lent to your neighbor.
Yeah, yeah.
And if your neighbor rocks up in the next pub and throws a party and goes bankrupt the next day, he says, oh, sorry, I can't pay you back the 1,000. You lost it. So and this is how the gold carry trade worked. And the problem is with gold, with these gold carry trades, is we don't really know. There is a few facts about it, about the German gold, which is the second biggest reserve on the chart next to the Federal Reserve. And there's a discussion going on right now that the Germans want to know how much gold do we have? And we don't really know. There's 1,600 tons of gold that was stored in the Federal Reserve in New York, German gold, and the Federal Reserve files these gold under deep storage. But we don't know. These 8,000 tons in the Federal Reserve statistics, are they part? Are these 1,600 tons part of their statistics, or is it
Yeah.
No one tells you. So the only way to find out would be to actually walk in and count and find out how many of these bars are actually our own.
Do an audit, yeah.
Yeah, but there hasn't been an audit in the American state for the last, I think, 60 years.
Yeah, they're terrified to do it.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah, just because there's very little there, I'm sure. Have you heard of the Bank of International Settlements?
Yes, of course. This is one of the big players that were responsible for the gold pool transactions in the 60s to 70s.
That's what I heard. What I heard was the Bank of International Settlements was set up after the Second World War. That the Emperor of Japan came to London to try and stop countries going to war in the future over resources, over money, and that they decided to take an awful lot of the gold out of the market and store it in the Bank of International Settlements, and then they could have their fiat currency and it would work properly. But the gold wouldn't disappear. It'd just be an agreement amongst all the nations behind the scenes that your gold reserves would be kept in different locations around the world and it would be monitored in the Bank of International Settlements. Would that be your understanding of what it is?
Well, my understanding of the Bank of International Settlement is that they have been always the watchers of the derivatives of the gold pool, and all these big massive trades run through them, and they are like in the same how can I say, in the same area as the World Bank and as the IMF. They all work very closely together.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and what's their overall function? Do you think is it just to be a caretaker, or is it something else to it than that?
Well, it's a bank that executes orders and that watches and files statistics over the big international settlements and transactions that are being done. But I haven't heard about the Japan story that you were telling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. There's a guy called David Wilcox that's done a lot of research into this area, and he's posted up on his website, DivineCosmos.com, some very interesting information about what's going on. He talks about the $1 trillion lawsuit against some of the superpowers in the world. Have you heard anything about that?
About the lawsuit against who?
A $1 trillion lawsuit against the Federal Reserve.
Yes.
Have you heard about that?
Oh yes, of course. It's part of the Gold Antitrust Action Committee, is it?
Something like that. Basically, what they're saying is that the Eastern countries are saying that they gave their gold to the Federal Reserve back in the 30s, I think it was, and that the Federal Reserve gave them bonds on the back of that. And if these countries in the East want to collect now, that they can't, because the gold is not there, and that they're basically saying that the Americans stole the gold from them, and they're looking for it back, and the Americans won't give it back, and they're basically going to the international courts to try and make the Federal Reserve pay back the gold that is owed to them through the bonds that they have. They want to be able to redeem their gold.
Yes.
So that's kind of what's going on in that area. It'd be interesting to get your take on that in the future. But come here and I ask you, I'm sure you've heard that there's been 100 billion euros dumped into the Greek banks there overnight.
Yes, I've heard that. Yes, this morning. Yes. That's
pretty shocking, isn't it?
Well, I'm not really shocked by this anymore, because once you have a basic understanding of how the system works, and this is a kind of a suggestion for everyone who's interested in these things, to gain a knowledge, to gain an understanding how the system works, you can't really be shocked, because it's the nature of the system to keep printing money, and they won't stop it, because they have to keep things alive. As long as everything starts to crack up in hyperinflation or anything else. So these situations will continue to unfold.
The problem, Stefan, is that they're trying to force these fiscal treaties on the Irish people, and they're dumping 100 billion euros into Greek banks without any hard agreements in place, like they're trying to make the rest of Europe agreed to, which are crippling the country with austerity. I mean, anyone worth their salt would know that the more money you take out of the economy, the worse it's going to be for everybody, and that is the economy cannot possibly grow when you take money out of the economy. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yes, of course. But if you look back at the track record of central banks and governments, they never really managed well, did they?
No.
So there is only a few spots in history where actually things have been okay, and so I believe that the only thing a person can really do is you can vote no to these measures if you were asked, but the only thing a person can really do is to center things around themselves and and become strong by just knowing what's going on and get prepared for a few things that may happen.
Okay, and what do you think may happen?
Well, monetary history teaches us that every time when there is man-made currency, the currency fails. And a currency fails by a drop in the purchasing power by 95 to 99%. So that means if you have 1,000 euros, 10,000 euros, 100, 1,000 euros, or 1 million in your bank account sitting, or in bonds, or in then you have to think about what that means to you and to your loved ones. If a currency defaults, which history teaches us is always the case, you need to be invested in intangible assets. And that could be stuff that people need, like food, grocery, long-lasting stock, and obviously gold and silver. So that's the only remedies for this kind of cure. And then just let them do whatever they have to do, but try to keep yourselves together,
Okay.
until the system is gone. And I know this is not like the most popular view on these things, but this is what history teaches us. And I find since 2006, since I gained that knowledge, everything is going like clockwork. Oh, there's 500 trillion ejected in the markets. Okay, well, let's do it. Okay, that's another 800 trillion. Oh, well, this morning 100. What did you say, 100 billion? 100 trillion?
100 billion.
100 billion?
Dropped into the banks, into the Greek banks.
Yeah. So where does the money come from? Well, it's created out of nothing. It's not there. It's not real. And so once you understand that, all you can do is save yourself. By saving yourself doesn't mean you throw a bomb at the bank. It just means that you're moving out of the collective and create your own collective. Which is against our nature, I must say that. But in these times, we have to,
But a question that somebody asked me, Stefan, was that if the economy collapses that we have at the moment, well, there's only 32 days food reserves left in the world, and it's only locally less than a week, right? So if that happens and you've got a load of gold, how are you going to buy food from people if they don't have any food to buy it from? And what use is silver or gold coins to people to pass on to somebody else if anybody else that they're trading with doesn't have any need for gold or for silver because they can't eat it?
Well, that's right, yeah. That's one of the most asked questions. Well, you can't eat paper as well. You can only burn it, which gives you a bit of warmth at night. But before I answer that question, let me just add a little bit of information beforehand. The question is, if you have 10 grand sitting in your bank account, why would you lose it?
Yeah.
Why would you lose the value of it, the purpose of it? So that's the first thing. If you know what's going to happen, why would you do it? That's the question someone needs to ask him or herself that is in the position of thinking about, I have 10 or 100 grand sitting there. What am I going to do with it? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, if you invest in tangible assets, you will have a food storage, a food reserve that you can actually barter with and trade with. And I like the fact in Ireland that everyone's growing something. So if you look at the mass of polytunnels that are in this country, that's really a reassuring fact. And everyone's got like a little patch and grow some potatoes. So I think the Irish will be fine if that scenario really happens. And and you can always barter with gold and silver because everyone knows it. Everyone knows how a gold coin looks or a silver coin looks. And if you look at money as being stored surplus labor, which is my view on money, because if you worked and you actually generated 10 grand of surplus labor and you worked a certain amount of hours for it, whatever that may have been, these certain amount of hours, let's say just 100 hours, just out of practical things here for this example, if you worked 100 hours, are these 100 hours worth the same, more or less, in 10 or 20 years' time? So that's my view on things. The 100 hours worked for is 100 hours, and you should be able to have the same purchasing power for your 100 hours of stored labor now than you have in 10 years' time. And this is what gold and silver always did.
Okay.
Gold preserves people's purchasing power. The 10 grand in the bank account, they're not worth anything in 5 years' time. Not anything. It gets wiped out. So if gold goes from today $1,570 to $5,000, then you will be able to buy stuff with your gold coin.
What are the chances of the gold dropping through the floor in value? How is that possible? Could that happen?
No. Historically, over the last 5,000 years, gold has been the only money that ever worked, that could buy you, in every part of the world, food, shelter, and stuff. So the value of gold, if you imagine, if it drops, let's do a dramatic example, if it drops down from 1,600 today down to 200, that would mean that the pint in the pub goes from 4.50 to 80 cents. So gold is always a measure of how much money mass is printed and in circulation.
Okay. That's interesting. It always comes back to gold no matter what, even today.
It does, yes. And interesting enough is that gold moves up nearly in exact correlation with the printing of the money mass. The problem with the money mass is that the Federal Reserve stopped announcing M3, which collects all the money that's floating around, stopped announcing this number, I think in September 2010 or something.
Right. And why did you stop?
Why? I think if they announce it, everyone knows the system is completely out of control. So the only way you can follow the contraction or expansion of the money mass in the US is like following the debt.
Okay, and you've come across the US debt clock, I'm sure, haven't you?
Yes.
That's just insane. That just keeps on ticking up the whole time in like tens of thousands every second. It's just a real eye opener to have a look at that. And the Irish one clocks up, hundreds of or thousands every couple of seconds as well. It's just it's out of control. I mean, what people don't understand, Kramer, is that or Stefan, I should say, is that the money system is a debt-based system. It's when it's loaned into existence, it's debt attached to it already, and that it's issued from private banks who have control of the issuance of money. And when that's circulated, the only way you can get more money is to borrow more money back from the issuer in the first place, which is the private bank who charge interest. So the actual money becomes more debt-based and of value over time, and that's where we are now.
Yes. We're in the last stretch of this currency cycle, and if you go into the area of the long cycle economic researchers, like Professor Kondratiev was one of them, and there's a bunch out there right now that are redeveloping this science that are researching these long-term cycles. They come to an interesting conclusion. They say the next long-term cycle will end between 2015 and 2020, and this is where we have to rethink our currency and monetary system. And I believe mathematically this is absolutely accurate, because how long can you go? I mean, it doesn't take much more longer to go from 14 trillion US debt to 140.
Yeah.
It maybe takes 3 years. It's just a mathematical formula.
Yeah. Well, see, what I think is happening myself, I'd like to hear your own opinion, but what I think is happening now is they're gearing up for another war in the Middle East, and then they can control all the gold reserves in those areas, and they can control the natural resource, they control the gas and the oil and diamonds, and all of the things that are actually of value that can be used. And once they can control all those things, well, then they can bring in a new money system. But the current money system is failing, and is failing very quickly, as you said. And the only way that they can restabilize it is to go to war and to take control over other people's wealth, and then they can come up. They can bring in a new system they probably have in reserve that they haven't been able to do anything about yet, because they're stuck. They're stagnant. They're like a pool of water that's full of poison at this stage and that's dead. My understanding is that America, that its actual dollar value is worth less than $1. It's worth less than 3 cents, I should say. Somebody said to me there recently, and that it's only got value because it's attached to the petrol market. That's what gives it its value, the petrodollar.
Yes, if you look at I agree, James. As far as my information goes, the US rescheduled the war on Iran after the election, so that's something that down the road that needs to be observed and watched. But if you look at the movement of gold since the 40s, Bretton Woods. Gold moved generally from west to east because everyone that redeemed the dollars got the gold. Yeah. And the gold carry trade was actually the same. The banks that lend out the gold to Asian buyers that bought it physically was the same movement. Mm-hmm. So the West is kind of depleting gold, and the East is stocking up in gold. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing is that India is for many, many years the biggest gold importer worldwide, and India will be moved from China from pole position down to number 2. So China is hoarding gold, and I don't think that the US will actually start a war against China.
No, I don't think so either. They will against Iran, though.
Yeah, I think they will against Iran, but I think that would be it. Mm-hmm. And then we have the Russians, and the Russians have been historically always keen on gold. We don't know much about Russian gold, but Russians have been historically keen on gold. And what people don't know is that that most of the gold is used as jewelry. That's a well-known figure. Mm-hmm. But what most people don't know is that in countries like India and China, where wages are so low, premiums are very low, and they use their jewelry for monetary purposes. Like every time when the India rupee is down and devalued because they just can't manage the currency, then gold will be traded and used. And then it's just like you have a necklace and you just clip one of these little things in your necklace out, and that buys you a week's supply of grocery.
Right.
So this is what people have to keep in mind. Most of the gold in the world is used for monetary aspects. And even if it's just the housewife that needs to feed their family in India. Mm-hmm. So the Chinese and the Indians are the two gold hotspots in the world. And the Chinese, they do everything they can to get rid of the euros and dollars.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, of course, because they know this is all a Ponzi scheme, you know? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So if you're the last one, like you say, like your example with the package, if you're the last guy who opens the package, you're stuffed. Mm-hmm. And this is what they know. Mm-hmm. So they're not stupid.
Yeah, yeah. So what you're saying, Kramer, and what we're both saying really is, I'm no expert, I'm only an observer, right? But just purely from the amount of information and the amount of books that I've been reading, that the American empire is due to collapse, and it's going to collapse very, very shortly, because it doesn't have any money, and it has an incredible amount of debt. And unless it has the biggest army in the world, it has the biggest navy in the world, it has the most biological and nuclear weapons in the world, and it has the highest standard of living in the world, for the size of the country. But it's got perpetual debt, and it has no way of offloading that debt. And the only thing it can do is go to war, and they're limited in what wars they can actually get involved with, because China is now the next superpower in the world, with over 1 million standing army. So what are they going to do? Like, it's I don't see how they can get out of the current quagmire that they're in.
Well, I think they just split up, so the United States become ununited.
I think you're right. I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, so everyone, and there is a lot of movement in the US, as far as my information goes, that are actually claiming and saying, look, we don't really want to have to do anything with these Federal Reserve crap. We want to do our own stuff, and there's towns and countries that issuing their own currency, right, for a couple of years.
Yeah. Social credits is something that I find very interesting. Another one is mathematically perfected economy, which Vinny talks about a lot on TNS Radio. And both these systems, they give the issuance of the currency control back to the people. With the social credits, it comes from a central, a national credit office, which gives you a dividend every month. It could be, it all depends on the amount of money that needs to be circulated into the national economy to keep the economy tipping over nicely. And it could be anything from 1,000 to 2,000 social credits, which is equal to the currency that's used internationally through the country, like the euro, for example. It's 1-to-1, and that money can only be used in the country, but it creates great liquidity in the local markets and gets everyone buying and selling. And the MPE, I don't understand it fully, but it's got to do with the issuance of your own checkbooks, and you get to write your own checkbook out, and it's your own personal check, which gets passed on to other people and can be passed on again further on, and it can always be traced back to you. And that's an honour-based system where you can write as many checks as you want, but it will be traced back to you if you are, defrauding people. So but their systems, they are fiat systems, but they're fiat systems that are not controlled by a central authority to a degree. The social credits is to a small degree, but it's up to the people themselves whether they want to spend it or not into the local economies. And there's no usury. Usury is the biggest problem. So that's what's after creating the debt monster that we have on the planet. And also, it's good to note that historically, that usury has always been frowned upon. It's been frowned upon in all of the religious texts in the world, the Quran, the Torah, and the Bible. And that it's only in the last couple of 100 years, really, that the Christian world have accepted usury as a means of making money on the issuance of loans.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here? Do we go back to agrarian times again? Do we forget about the Industrial Revolution? Do we allow the whole thing to collapse, or do we try to put pockets of do we attempt to put pockets of social control back in place in towns and villages and provinces, and try to find a solution through in a grassroots way, like what we're doing with the Awaken Ireland movement?
Well, this is a very interesting question, and I believe it will be a mixture of all of those things. I believe there will be a local barter system where you have a marketplace and you go there, and I believe gold and silver will have a small place in it as a storage for wealth, and that is like an international standard that can trade, and so I believe it will be a mixture of all of those things.
Okay.
But I don't.
Does it mean the end of the the technology revolution that we've had in the world? Because people have a certain level of comfort that they're used to with modern technology. We've got fridges and washing machines and microwaves and TVs and laptops and mobile phones and cars, and the list is endless. So it doesn't mean the end of it, because the current system is based on usury and the fractional reserve system, the creation of money out of thin air. If that collapses, the whole industrial world will grind to a halt pretty much straight away, wouldn't it really?
Well, people just have to find an agreement of the medium of exchange.
Yeah.
You know, like what is accepted. And obviously you could say, okay, we have 5 tons of Guinness, and we exchanged that for something else. So here's a voucher for 5 tons of Guinness, and then it will be redistributed or something. Trading and bartering and creating things it's a deep-seated natural aspect of us humans.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe it won't come to the end, but I believe we will see some major changes.
Mm-hmm.
And to be perfectly honest, I don't need a telly or a microwave.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's no more telly, well, there's no more telly, you know. Let's go to the pub and hang out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm absolutely all on for that myself. We actually don't have a telly in this house at all. There's 3 men living here with no TV. It's great.
Yeah.
But go on. Yeah.
If I could do business without a notebook, well, let's do business without a notebook.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really see the necessity of getting more iPods and more stuff. And I do have an iPod and I love it. And I love listening to music. But hey, if there's no more iPods, well, why don't we just hang out in the pub where there's a few musicians about and we can just all be merry together?
Yeah. Which is always a better option, you know, than sitting at home and listening to music that's created on the computer or something.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So
you don't think we're all doomed then, Stefan? Then.
Oh, sorry, James, you were breaking up right now.
You don't think we're all doomed to the current monetary system? Because I think it is coming down. I think it's only a matter of time before it collapses, really. You know.
Oh well, definitely. There's not one flicker of a doubt about it. And the sooner people start to prepare themselves and get ready. So the overall trend goes from this massive governmental bodies and like European Union empires. I'm using this old term now. Or like the American states, it goes down to smaller units now.
Yeah.
So let's say down to a county area, and then there's a council, and then people meet and say like, oh, what are we going to do with this street? Okay, well, just fix it. Okay, it's done. So and they go back to these natural skills, you know.
Yeah.
So like if you've never grown potatoes or herbs or veg and things, you don't really know. The only thing you ever know is harvesting in the supermarket.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, so that's all about your ever experience. But so I believe the overall trend, and this is what I get from most people here, is they go back to natural. So permaculture is a big thing. Growing your own veg at home is a big thing. And this is the best possible idea I've got, you know. If you have excess money, go save, buy gold and silver. So that's done, sorted. You know, you don't have to worry about purchasing power anymore because, you know, no matter where I go with my gold coin, I'll get something for it. Well, you should buy a few of the smaller gold coins, obviously, because an ounce of gold represents a massive value. But you can easily do that, and then just learn. You know, when we're doing the same here, growing stuff. You know, chop wood, carry wood, things like that.
Is silver a better option than gold to buy at the moment, or is there much of a difference? Or
silver is more undervalued than gold at the moment, but silver is more volatile. We're fans of both. And we do recommend to hold silver only for the very long term, because silver dropped from $50 down to $26 last week. So So that's a massive drop. It's almost half from its top last year.
Why does silver drop like that?
Well, because it's a tiny market and it's highly manipulated. But the last trade that JP Morgan did went terribly wrong. So we believe if once the manipulation goes, and that's another historical fact, by the way, manipulation can't go on forever. At some point it stops, and once the manipulation stops, you see gold and silver skyrocket. So that's another fact. Absolute skyrocket. Yes.
Okay, we're going to finish up then because we're getting a bit of break up there in the line. But we've covered an awful lot of stuff there. Is there anything else you want to say before we finish up there, Stefan?
Well, if you're okay with that, James, I just would like to go to the Celtic Gold website and introduce the newsletter, which is not like a sales performance. It's more like a free ongoing seminar that's designed to transport the historical facts about these things with a lot of crosslinks, obviously, through the internet.
Okay.
And that's what I like to do, because it's a free service and people learn a lot, and people emailing in all the time saying, wow, this is really great stuff. And so I'm happy people like it.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's the format of your radio show, James. If you say, look, there's no links and there's no stuff, then I'm happy.
It's okay. Look, I'm happy to have you on the show, and just if you want to throw a little plug in here, that's your business. I don't mind. It's fine. But it's been good. It's been good to have you on the show, and we might get you on again if things change, to get your viewpoint on the current economic situations.
Well, thank you. It was very nice to chat with you, and you have an awful amount of knowledge, James. So you should really, teach or let's say transport the information to the people, because it's very important that people have these basic understandings of what's going on, so they not like falling out of bed and shocked, running around scared,
Yeah, what I'm trying to do is to get people who are have very specific information like yourself on the show, so that I can actually share what I know with yourself, and we can bounce off each other, and then other people can get a higher viewpoint of actually really what's going on, rather than me just sitting into in front of the computer and just talking off the top of my head. It's better to talk to experts in those particular areas, So that's kind of what I do, and it's working quite well. I've just spent many years myself researching in the background, over 10 years now, and I've looked at online videos called Money Masters and Money as Debt, which are really good at explaining how the money system is created.
Yes.
And just to let you know before we finish up, that from what I've been reading recently as well, is that it's interesting that you said there, Stefan, that it's the best way forward for America is to break down back into individual states again, into individual sovereign nations again. I think that's what's going to happen, and the proof of that is that there has been liens put on the Federal Reserve banks by many of the individual states in America, and that the militia are starting to come together now as well, that they want to break away from the federal government. They want to go back to sovereign states again themselves.
Right. Hold on, I just wanted to add something to it. Well, the interesting thing is that the Federal Reserve got a 100-year contract with the United States Senate, so it ends next year. So we could be all seeing this.
Oh, that's right, yeah, that's right. It's good to mention. I forgot about that, yeah. The 100-year lease is up, yeah. And actually, there's another thing we should really talk about just before you go, as well as the Creature at Jekyll Island. Have you heard of that book?
Oh yes, well I love Edward Griffin, and we posted a few videos on our website from him, and I think it's brilliant.
Because I haven't read the book, but I've read about it, and I have some kind of knowledge of what actually happens.
It's brilliant.
Apparently, that America, they attempted to have a Federal Reserve Bank. Actually, they had two Federal Reserve Banks, two central banks before in America, which the Americans stamped out because they realized that the centralization of money is not a good idea. The issuance of money from a private corporation is not a good idea. Twice they set it up since the foundation of the independent United States from England, and twice they knocked it back, and eventually then they set up the Federal Reserve, and they pushed it through on Christmas Eve in 1913, was it?
Mm-hmm.
and it's not even legal. That's the amazing thing about it, because there has to be so many votes in Congress, and they only managed to get 100 and something votes, and it was nowhere near the minimum votes that they needed. So the Federal Reserve it's not a legal entity anyway, as well as the Income Tax Act in America is not a legal entity either.
That's right. Yes.
It's just nuts.
It was only created because someone figured out they had to pay interest to the Federal Reserve, and they didn't know from who to take the money from.
Yeah.
Well, if you look, it's so funny in a strange way. It's very sad, but it's so funny how these governmental agencies work. And well, there you go. It's just what things are.
It's just it. Sometimes I feel like I'm in a loony bin, and I'm locked in the padded cell, and I can't get out, and I can't find the exit door. It's just like
yeah, that's
the
right.
The more you research this stuff, you go, it's just so crazy. How did the powers that be ever allow it to get to this mess that we're in today? Some people believe it's orchestrated. Some people believe it's just pure stupidity and greed that got it there. I myself believe it's a mixture of the two. And time will tell. So thanks very much.
It's part of the human greed. Is part of humanity, and so they just know how to stimulate these things.
Yeah. So that's it, Stefan. Thanks very much for having us on, and we'll get you on again at for a further date in the future.
Well, thank you, James, for having me, and it was a pleasure talking to you.